Okay, so I'd like to also mention how they were more willing to. They understood that where they flawed. They came up right away as soon as they realized that that was on the table. That they came to that we've made a mistake. They admitted that right away, and that they were willing to make amends. I think that also shows some merit and should be taken into consideration when we think about that. But yes, they should be looking at checks, and something that executives should be doing, because we do need to look at because our budget. It's very important. So I feel that executives now have all probably learned the lesson learned from that scenario, and in the future we'll probably look at the read checks. But as Kyle mentioned, there's a lot of work. They have a lot of work to do, and that we should be understanding that they're students as well, but they should be doing their due diligence. And I think most people have learned. Well, they've learned their lessons, and further execs will continue to take that lesson forward.
Yeah, I would just like to briefly state in response to Kyle that I think a particular treaty does read that way. If it's moving towards universal free education, then raising tuition is in direct conflict with that.
Okay, thanks a lot for the interaction we had there. I think that there's a lot of conflict on campus between different competing ideologies, and I think we can all agree to that. And I think a lot of that sort of comes out of the face of one of the two ideologies comes out of what's called the resource groups. And I know that Rory, you're involved with the resource groups, and the resource groups, for anybody that doesn't know, receive a decent amount of money from the student union to do, like from the general funds of the student union, to do things like advocate and lobby for different sort of traditionally marginalized organizations. What do you guys think about the politicization of the organization in terms of it becoming active in supporting candidates and supporting actions politically within the student union, given that they're taking money from all of the students? This has been something that's sort of been controversial over the last little while, and I figure I'll give everybody a chance to sort of talk on that one. Who did we start with last time? I don't remember. Carolee? All right, well, we'll start with Rory.
Sure.
I think it's kind of odd to single out the resource groups in this instance, because there are certainly clubs that take very specific political stances in a similar manner. I mean, there's literally an NDP club, there's a Liberal club. To single them out because the resource groups do take political stances on things, I think it's kind of odd. But at the same time, I agree with many of the stances they take, and I think it's an important part of the UBC culture that we have them. Organizations like Pride, I wish Michael Hack could be here today I'm sure he would have more things to say about this than I do, but they really are important to what makes UBC a first-class institution. And furthermore, they're also able to operate about issues that the AMS has in the past failed to operate or discuss or participate in. For instance, as a member of the Social Justice Center in cooperation with the Student Christian Movement, the last thing that we were involved in was candlelight vigil for the death of Silas Rogers, which is, I think, a very important issue the AMS really hasn't taken much of a stance on. So I feel the resource groups, yeah, in many ways they are political organizations. I mean, the one I'm a part of is overtly and explicitly political, but I think that's a good thing. And I think it improves the quality of life for all students, not just the members themselves.
Yeah, I think that the way I view the world, I guess, and this comes partly from being a political science student, is I feel that there are very few issues that feature contentions between people and groups and that feature power relations of some sort that can be called apolitical. So I think that the fact that the resource groups are political is, it would be very anomalous if they weren't, given the nature of what their mandates cover. With that said, there are certain cases where I found that my personal beliefs were not in conjunction with those, and I have no problem with that as long as the decisions that the resource groups come to are made in a democratic manner, and as far as I've seen, that's the case. One thing that I think might be worthwhile with regards to the resource groups, though, is if there are people who do have some concerns about them, it might be a very good idea to get involved and run for positions on them and see if they could be reformed rather than sort of blackballed as a whole. Because I think that there's definitely some things going on there that I'm really impressed by. I was very impressed by seeing Allies UBC out at Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I thought they took a lot of initiative there. And Pride UBC has really, I think, grown quite a bit. And I've seen a lot of people who you might not stereotype as being part of the sort of very left-wing movement or whatever, being very well engaged by them. And so I kind of feel that it's not really my place to say how those particular groups should work, but if people do have problems with it, I think that absolutely they should get involved. And if people in the resource groups don't agree with positions that I hold, I really would encourage them to continue to critique me on that, because I think that it's important to have a credible opposition in order to form an effective government. So I think they have a really important role to play. And it's one layer, and you kind of merge it in. You have the resource groups, they provide some really key activist grassroots ideas. And then you have people on AMS Council, and hopefully I can be one of those people if I'm re-elected, who can convert those pushes into pragmatic movements that will then be accepted by people in the administration, the provincial government, and some of the other decision-making bodies that we have to interact with.
I think it's really good that we have the resource groups there and to be able to voice their opinions, because sometimes there are groups that are we don't really notice a lot, and it's really great that they are able to come out and voice their opinions about and remind us that there are people that we need to pay attention to. I think that it also adds, as I can't remember who said, but it adds to the culture of, I think it was you, right, Rory, the culture of the student body, because we do need that opposition in there, and it really it forces people to reconsider their thoughts and make sure that we are reaching out and touching what the students really want, and we are working towards the better of all students. We also just keep in mind, though, that there are resource groups also represent one voice, and that there's other voices as well, and we have to keep in mind those considerations. What the resources groups do, I do believe, is that they remind us of the different opinions that are out there, and remind us to consistently look towards the students and work towards what they want and listen to what they want. And I also feel that these resource groups provide a great base for student because they were so involved. They're also the students that we're reaching out to, and that adds to the student life, and what we're all aiming forward to is connecting the students to the AMS.
Actually, I thought
You want to continue? Because we're going to have to do a full roundtable if you continue.
all right, I will do so.
Okay.
Okay.
Just make it quick.
Yeah, I think one area that the resource groups could really have a key role is in the area of disabled students. As a student who self-identifies as disabled, I didn't feel that adding a seat to council was the most efficient way to deal with a group that I do agree faces real marginalization. And I think that a resource group might be one place to start. It may not be the end of the issue, but I think that's one place to start, and I would really want to support any move to establish a disabled resource group at UBC.
Can I just assume that the other two candidates agree?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would actually like a seat, so no, I guess.
Well, no, the next question directly relates.
Okay, sure.
So we all agree that it's a good idea to have resource groups involved in disability. Okay. All right, so then again, just over one last question here is we've seen this push, and we've seen a lot of opposition and a lot of support for creating sort of special interest group seats on the AMS, whether they be voting or non-voting. The one that we've already started is a non-voting international seat. And I understand that there's support for making them voting, and there's support for a disabled seat. Where do you stand on that? And do you think it's effective? Do you think it's been effective? And do you think that we should be adding seats for special interest groups given the current structure of the AMS?
I stand by the fact that the AMS should be faculty, seats should be designated by faculty, because the faculty is supposed to be looking out to these students. The constituency, sorry, it's supposed to be looking out for all these students. These people have, everyone has special interests and things that we should be looking out for. But I feel that it's the role of the constituency to reach